So this is a short video to show you how to import fonts that are like stitch files that you have to import each letter one at a time. So this is a Janome Mb4, but this should work the same on a Mb4s and an Mb7. So the first thing you want to do is open up the first letter. So we'll go into the open folder, and I have them on my USB already, and they're in this folder that I created. And I'm going to spell the word peace. So there's my capital P. And to bring in the other letters, I have to go into the menu edit screen. So menu, and then this edit icon. And there it is. And I can take this arrow here and move it over because all the letters are going to come in the center of the screen. And I don't have to use the M1. I can change this to the M2 hoop before I proceed, because then it's more magnified, although we can go to the magnifier when we're all done as well. So there's my P, and now to bring in the rest of the letters, I have to stay on this edit screen. So while I'm on the edit screen still, I'll hit open, my USB again, same folder, next page, E, and there's my E, and I'm going to move the E over, and you can see that it's not lined up with the P because, you know, the P is the capital and it came in centered. So let's just move the P up because we know the rest of the short letters are going to come in exactly the way the E did. So let's click on the P and we'll move it up so that the green box, the bottom of this green box, is in line with the bottom of this green box. So that's on this line right here. So I'll click on the P and I'll take this arrow up. So that's good. So now I'm going to just click on the E and move it over a little bit more. Now it doesn't have to be really close because remember, these are stitch files. Each letter is like an individual design basically. So it's going to tie on and it's going to tie off. Each letter is going to do that. So there's not going to be like a connection here, but there will be a jump. Now you can have your machine trim the jump, or you can trim them after the fact. Now I'm not sure where this P ends. I didn't check it out on my embroidery software. And if you don't have embroidery software, you may not know either. So, but just know that you can set your machine in the settings to trim your jumps or not. And I'll try to remember to do that when we're done. I just don't want to lose our train of thought here. So I have the E kind of where I want it. So I'll bring in the rest of the letters. So the same way, open while I'm on the edit screen, USB, A. Oh, and it was almost in the right spot. Now you can see, you know, it has to overlap, obviously. So let me move it back. That should be good. And then we'll get the C. And this one has to be moved to the right. That might be about right. And then we'll get the E again. Next page. E. I'm just going to hold it down. Oh, that looks about perfect. So, but now if I just, you know, hit OK, it's not centered in the hoop or anything. So we'll want to click here to the next page, and where you see this icon is not intuitive. this is the default. It shows with both flowers selected. Well, what that means is each letter is individual. I can click on the C, I can click on the A. So that makes no sense, really. If you click it, now only one of them is selected, and that means that it's one whole design. So that means you can move it around. So we're going to try and center it with it all selected. So let's go ahead. I can see that there's 1, 2.5 blocks up here, and there's like 1, 2, 3, 4.5. So I have to move it down at least 1 block. So now it looks like I have 1, 2, 3.5, 1, 2, 3.5. It's centered that way. Let's go the other way. Here I have more over here, so let's move it. Still can go 1 more, I think. It doesn't look like I can get it exact because this green line is to the right of this vertical grid, and then this one is right on it. If I go to the left, then that one is, you know, to the left more. So I'll just leave it like that. That's fine. And it's centered now, and I'm good, but here's what happens. Since I brought them all in separately, when you click OK, they all stitch out like a different color, which is fine if you want to keep it that way. That's fine. But sometimes you want to do more with your design, so, you know, at a later date or what have you. So I'm going to go back into the menu edit screen, and I'm going to try and group everything together. So I'm going to go to the next page, and then the next page, and this is the grouping icon. And now if I just click here so that they're all selected, that's just for moving. So let me click it again. So now they're all individually selected. If I click this grouping icon, you can see there's only 1 page, and they're all highlighted, which means they're all going to group as one unit. There's your grouping icon. And if you see them all highlighted and you're happy that that's what you want grouped, you hit OK. And now it's all just one color. And now you can stitch it. It's centered and so on. Now what I would do, if it were me, I would save this design in the RCS unit. So I click here and save. And not in the USB, but in the RCS, because it should save it as that one color. And I'll show you why I want to do that. So I don't know if you saw what I just did. Let me go back. So I'm saving it here in my Mb4 folder. And I'm not gonna name it that, so I'm gonna click rename, and I'm gonna you get 8 slots. I'll just spell it out. Peace, and you have to click OK, and then you have to click OK again when you see it there. Oh, I already saved it once. That's right. Okay, so it's saved. So now what I would do, because it's hard to center things without a crosshair, I always have a crosshair as the first object of my designs, always. So what I would do is I would go ahead and open up the crosshair first, because if you open it first, it's going to show up first in your stitching order. So I'm going to just click open, because this is already saved. Open. And it's on my USB, all my centering. And here's this 100 by 100 crosshair. That's fine. So there it is. And if I want to bring in the piece now, I go to Menu, Edit, just like before when we had to merge in extra letters. Now we're going to merge in a design. So I'm going to, while I'm on the edit screen, because you can, let me back up. You can kind of see my crosshair. It's got a green border around it. So it's there. No, it doesn't look like it, but it is. So we'll go open. Oh, not USB. I put it on the RCS. So we're going to, let me go back. So we're on the menu edit screen. We're going to go open, RCS, EMBF, and here it is here. Usually they're in alphabetical order, but I think when you first save them, they kind of throw them in. I'm not sure because, you know, I have 8 pages here. So here it is here. And so here's our piece, and it's with our crosshair behind it. Now, if I hit the crosshair, if I click on the crosshair, the last thing you select on this screen will stitch last. So I don't want to touch the crosshair right now. I'm just going to hit OK. Okay? And so the last thing that was selected was the word piece. So now everything is in there. The crosshair's in there, you know, everything. So now on your garment or your item, you just draw a crosshair on that item, or you use your paper template and you line up, you first, you know, you hoop the garment, you put the garment in with the crosshair on the garment, and then you check for center because the machine always defaults to center. Then you use your fast forward button to fast forward through this crosshair and make sure that it follows the crosshair on your item. And I have tons of videos on that. I'll try to put a timestamp on this video and make this in 2 parts if you want to learn how to center and so on for that. So you can go ahead now and save this on your RCS, because then it'll save just like this. You can even assign your colors. You know, if your first color is, or if your crosshair is, you could just leave it as 1. I'll go into manual assignment. I usually leave the crosshair on 1 because I don't stitch it. I just follow it. And I usually make it red. It already was red. I usually make it red to remind me to stop. And the reason why it came up red by default was because the one needle was already assigned to this one, so it knew you had to switch it. And then this one you could say, we'll go down. This one maybe I want it to be needle number 2. And then click, oops, you got to click this arrow. And then go back. And now I can save this on the RCS. Up here. And it'll save just like that. And I'll rename it. I don't know if I could put a crosshair in there. Yeah, because it lets you put in 8 numbers or letters or numbers. And then you have to hit OK again. So now it's in there. And it should come up just like this with all of your needles assigned and everything. If I were to just, you know, pull it up from the USB, I'd have to go through all this all over again. So that's how you get it all in. Now I'll go into how to center and rotate this design. To make life even simpler, if you don't have a printer and you don't have, you know, any embroidery software to stitch out your template, you can make your own template that goes on your item. So this is different than the hoop template. This is the template that you're going to follow after you've hooped crookedly, so to speak. So I just made this with a Sharpie. I folded a piece of paper in half. I used my June Taylor Get Squared ruler. I have all of these. I have the 8-inch, the 12-inch, and the 6-inch. They're actually 8.5, 12.5, and 6.5. With an 8.5, a 4.5 square fits inside, and so on. The same thing with the 12s and the 6s. So here's the 6.5 and a 3.5-inch square fits inside. And you just draw your cross here. It locks right in. And here's the 12.5 and a 6.5 locks in. Whoops, 12.5. Where's my, oh, I just put it down. The 6.5 locks in. And you just draw your cross here like that. You first center this on your item, so I'll show you that. So the way I made this, I just folded the paper in half. I put this on, and all these lines are color-coded. And I tried to get this centered on the paper even. So I see this blue line here falls on the edge, and so does this blue line up here. They're both blue lines. So I know that I'm centered because the lines are all color-coded. You don't really even have to think. And this is an 8.5-inch wide piece of paper, so it's easy. I just line up the edges and line up the tops, and, you know, and then you can draw in your square on this ruler, but I usually don't because it's too hard to clean the Sharpie afterwards. I usually use this at the end because then I could take alcohol on the edges. I didn't get it all. But what I do first is I just take this ruler, the 8.5 squared goes with the 4.5-inch, and I just lock it in to where the center is. Draw my line. I'll draw it with the thinner one. Maybe I won't mark it up as much, but you can't see it as well, you know. And then you don't have to turn it or anything. You just take it and bring it down here. Lock it in. And then draw this. And like I said, I could just draw the outer lines if I want, you know, because maybe I wanted to cut this or what have you. But I usually like to draw it on this. So I'm just going to put that in, lift this up, and then draw my border. And it's just easier to clean this one, like I said. And then, you know, this could be what you put on your designs, or on your, not on your designs, on your garment as your crosshair. So if your design is bigger, then you can make a bigger crosshair. But a lot of times a 4x4, now see, I have to get the alcohol to clean these edges. I'm going to put that aside for a minute. And then I would just cut it with a paper cutter or scissors or what have you. I have a rotary blade that I use just for paper. My good one, because I ran out of blades for it. So I don't use my June Taylors for cutting. They're just too precious. So then you would go ahead and cut it. Now, I'll use this one on this side just because it's thicker and easier to see. And you know, and you don't have to cut it. You could just fold it, but so there's my template. And I could keep it doubled up so it's thicker and then just tape it. You can put some really good tape on the edges. Or you could just use Scotch tape like I am. So there you go. So there's your template. And so then if you have a garment and you want this centered in the garment, you would again use your June Taylor. I should probably use something that's more applicable, but you know, say you want this centered in your item. Say it ended here and you want this centered. Well, this Get Squared ruler is probably too short for that. You want it to extend out so you can see the lines over here. So I would probably use the 12-inch to place my template. And I'm going to look at this line here as my edge. So, you know, I have a lot there and a little there. You just look for the two lines. There's a green and there's a green, and then the black is on the outside. So that's my sides. And then top and bottom, same thing. I got a green there. And down here, can't really see. So I have to move this down because there's just a little bit here and a lot up there. Now I'm on the black, but here I'm on the green, so I have to cut the difference. And you can, because there's a red dashed line there. So you can, and I can still get my sides. So I'm pretty happy with that. Oh, it looks like I can do the black up here and here. This isn't cut square, but you get the idea. So this is placed correctly in the center of my item. So once this is placed correctly, then I can place my template on, because the centers of this are 6 and 6. So I just make sure my template lines up with the 6 and the 6 here. That this vertical and this horizontal. And I can use another ruler to help me since this template is so small. You know. So there's the 6 and there's the 6, and then line this up. And it might even be better if I used a wider ruler for this part, because then I could do the sides as well. I should use this one because you can see through it better. Sorry. So I'll line up this 6 with this 6. And then this with this one. Move it over. And that's only because my template is so short. And what I could have done is put a the smaller one inside of here, the 6-inch, but my template won't fit inside of there, so I can't use it. So I'll just do it this way, it's fine. So this 6 is lined up with this, and this is lined up here. So now I just move my crosshair, I can hold it here, or move my template so that it's in line with everything as well. So once it's in line, I can tape it, or you know, I could have had double-sided tape on the back. I have the white double-sided tape as well. So that red double-sided tape is really sticky. So now this is corduroy, and I would have to make this tape less sticky because I wouldn't want to ruin it. So to do that, a lot of times I just I stick the tape on other fabric a few times, or maybe some scrap, you know, to make it less sticky. And then, you know, I don't want to cover up the crosshair too much, though. That was stupid. And where I'm taping it, you do kind of want to tape it on the Scotch tape, right? Because you don't want to pull this off and then pull off your paper. So I'll make this less sticky. And so there you go. So then this is on. And so that's your Bible, basically, what you're going to go by. And then, because we're going to hoop crookedly, in fact, I'll purposely hoop crookedly, even though I normally don't hoop that crookedly. I have double-sided tape on the back of this, but I'm not going to use it on the corduroy again. So I always save the part you peel off of the double-sided tape. I just don't want to ruin it. I might use it for a project, you never know. I don't know if I'm really going to stitch out this or not. So, because normally I have double-sided tape when I'm working with like cotton and that would stick to the hoop then. I'd stick right to it. And it makes hooping so easy. Okay, I didn't get it all. Should have saved more of those. But what I would do, and you can pretend like there is double-sided tape on there, I would take the template, the regular hoop template. I have to find it, one sec. And I would put the regular hoop template that came with the machine, put it in the inner ring correct way, and I'd line up this crosshair with this one. And, you know, if there were tape under here, it would stick down. But like I said, I'm going to wing it. And so I would line those up, the two crosshairs, and press down. So I'd line those up, and then I would slide my bottom ring underneath and hoop it. And, you know, I may have hooped crookedly, which is why we have the crosshair, because we end up following this crosshair after we get it hooped and take it to the machine. But let's pretend like I'm messing up and I'm hooping crooked. Because remember, you can be in the center of your design. I get frustrated because I watch educators center a design, but they don't check for rotation. So if you hooped ever so slightly crooked, but yet you're still in the center, I'm sticking still, okay? Your design's going to be crooked. You have to check for center and rotation. So I'm going to purposely do that. I'm going to hoop crookedly. And I'm actually going to hoop it a little off center too. Just a little bit. And then slanted. So I'm really cockeyed. Now I have to be careful, because if my design is too big, then I won't be able to rotate it because it's going to hit the hoop on the screen. So, you know, you always want to account for that when you're stitching something. I usually make them at least a ½ inch smaller than the hoop sewing field. So this is going to be harder for me to hoop anyways because I don't have sticky on the bottom. This is just a quilt sandwich, so I don't have stabilizer. So I'm going to slide this under. And usually to find where I have to move the bottom, I can see there's a gap here and I just press, and then the top hoop follows. But since I don't have sticky tape, my sticky tape working, it's going to be a little bit harder. So I'm going to feel around for gaps. And I didn't check my hoop spring. For quilting, that looks about right. I either use these skinny ones, but I give myself a gap on either side, or I use the red Wonder Clips, and, you know, sometimes that's too loose, but this is pretty thick, so that might be good for this one. So I'll press here. Okay. And I'm pressing down, and then I'll recess it. And remember, you don't tighten your screw after you've hooped. You don't tighten it. If you do need to tighten it, take it out, and rehoop it. Now, if your design is already quilted, like this part is quilted, if I would have hooped this, you don't have to worry about tightening. You can tighten the screw if you're stitching over something that's already quilted. But, so anyways, so that, I'll recess that. Okay. And now I'm done with the hoop template. This was just to help me get close to my crosshair. And obviously I on purpose didn't. So then I take it to the machine, and my design at the machine has a crosshair in it. So I'm going to use that to my advantage. And so let's go to the machine now. Okay, so now this is the design, as you recall, that I brought in one letter at a time and then saved that word piece to the RCS unit. Then I closed out of that completely. I opened up a crosshair, went to the menu edit screen, imported the word piece, and now this is what I have. And so remember, those are two separate objects. And I believe even if I save it with the crosshair like right now, it's still going to come through as two separate objects. Let me just see, because I do believe I have piece saved with the crosshair. So let me go ahead and open it. Open RCS EMBF piece crosshair. Let me just see. So here's piece crosshair, and I'm going to go to the menu edit screen, and you can see just the word piece is selected with the green box. So that means they're two separate. Even though I saved them as one, they're two separate items. See, I just clicked on the crosshair, and now this is showing. Now, if you had embroidery software and you merged in a crosshair with your design and then opened it up, then everything will be as one. So when you're on the menu edit screen, when you go to rotate, it's a lot easier because you only have to rotate one time because it rotates everything, the crosshair and the design. But in this case, since they're separate, when we get to the rotate step, we have to do it for both items. So let's just click OK. Go back to the Ready to Sew screen. Now it looks like I must have selected the crosshair last when I was on that menu edit screen, because look, the crosshair went second. Menu edit. Remember, the last thing you touch will stitch last. So right now the crosshair is selected. So I'm going to touch piece. So now this will stitch last. The last thing you touch is the last thing that will stitch. I'll hit OK. Okay, so now the piece is down here. And if you want to see what's stitching, of course you click this icon. So the first one's the crosshair, the second one is the wine. I go down. Okay, piece rather. So we'll go back up to the crosshair. Now, whenever you open a design, it doesn't matter about where it's placed or anything. The design always defaults to the hoop's center. So we want our needle to be, let me go down. We want our needle to be in our center of our crosshair. You know, we can't have it where the machine wants to go because we know we hooped crookedly. We all do. So I could see that my needle, this is the active needle, needle number 1. I can see it's not in the center if I click it down. So I'm going to use my jog buttons right here to move the carriage arm, which will make it look like the needle is moving. So always think of these buttons as we're moving the needle. In fact, everything we do, we're going to think of in terms of we're moving the needle. And that'll make things easier. So let me try to get right in the center. So I could definitely see that I have to go. And when I have to go forward towards me, I'll hit this bottom button, just so you know what I'm hitting. Okay, so, and it usually only goes 0.1 millimeter at a time with each click, so you can hold it down, but I usually overshoot it. And it'll beep at you if you went too fast. Okay, so now I'm going to go towards me or down. I went too far. Okay. Oh, it's yelling at me. Okay, so when I think I'm close in the vicinity of the center, this is when I dial the hand wheel down to really make sure I'm in the center. And I should have taped this, but the needle shouldn't go down. I mean, you can, but why waste your template? So I'm going to turn the hand wheel back here, turn this hand wheel to the left. You know, if you're facing the machine, turn it left like 20 minutes. And it's hard to turn when the needle is snapped down. So regardless, I always use one of these, you know, shelf liners. Mine is scrap. I have to get a better one. And so I'm going to turn the hand wheel towards me like 20 minutes, maybe 15. And when I did that, let's see, this take-up lever went down. Here, I'll go bring it back up. See, if I go towards me, it goes down. And you'll get used to how far this has to be. It's about 20 minutes. So once that's dialed down, now I can take and push this all the way down and see if I'm in the center. And it does look like I'm in the center. I can look on all sides. So I did a pretty good job. I want to lose my thread. So I'm done with centering. Now we're going to do rotation. And to do rotation, we have to follow our crosshair. So to follow our crosshair, we use these F buttons because these will just fast forward or reverse. That's what they're for. So this is the first object. It's highlighted, and so that's what's going to be followed when I hit this F button. So just know I'm hitting this button or the reverse if I have to go in reverse. So let's come back down here. And I usually make my crosshairs so that they start up at the top first and come down because it's easier to follow. So to follow the crosshair, it's easier if you do snap it down. This one is loose because I dialed it that 20 minutes. So when I hit the F button, it's going to give me a warning anyways. So watch, I'll hit it once. Needle bar's out of position. So hit OK. And when I hit OK, you see that went into position. So now I can snap this down. I'm trying to get right in the center. Now I can snap that down. And I'm going to hit that F button. And this is going to come forward, so I have to... Okay. And so I can see right away, let me go up a little higher and might be able to see even better, that my needle is to the right of this vertical crosshair. So it's basically doing that. Okay. So you want to think of the needle as a spinner on a game board. So if your needle is to the right of the vertical line up here, then you can assume that needle is going to be to the left of the vertical line once we get down. So a lot of times I'm like, oh geez, I know I'm going to be to the left, so I know I just have to rotate my needle, hence my design, counterclockwise to get it straight. But for the sake of going through the motions, of course, we're going to fast forward all the way through. So just remember, it looks like this. I'm going to move it to the side, and I'm going to hit the F button to fast forward a little more down. And you'll see how it starts to come over. I'm just holding down the F button. So you can see it. It's very slight, but it is to the left. So I was right. I have to rotate. Let me go back up. I'm going to hit reverse. So this is what my needle is doing. It's doing this. So we have to rotate our needle counterclockwise to get it to be vertical. How many degrees? I would say 2 degrees, and then we'll check it again. So to rotate your design, you have to go back into the menu edit screen. So menu edit, and this is your rotate button. Now remember, I keep forgetting because I have embroidery software. Mine would normally all be one, but these are in 2 different objects. Right now the piece is selected. You can see the little green box is around the piece. If I want to rotate the crosshair, because that's what I'm dealing with right now, I have to hit the crosshair, touch the crosshair. So now I can rotate. When you look at rotation on these embroidery screens, the design always comes in positionally at 0 degrees. So again, if this were a spinner or a little spinner inside a circle, say, then my finger represents 0 degrees, which is where the design comes in at on the screen. So if we rotate the design, or the needle, the spinner, whatever you want to call it, if we rotate it, say, clockwise 1 degree, then it'll say 1 degree down here instead of 0 degrees. If we rotate it 90 degrees, now positionally it's down here, then it'll say 90. If we rotate it 180, there's your new position. 270, 360. Notice that 360 and 0 are positionally in the same spot. So if we were to rotate counterclockwise, and so from 360 to 359, that's what we'll see here. We'll see a 359 when we go counterclockwise. So that's what we want to do. We want to go counterclockwise. I think I said 2 degrees. So it'll be 359, 358. I'm exaggerating, of course. And that's what we should see. So let's rotate counterclockwise once. It says 359. And you'll see our crosshair turned. And you could see the crosshair is not on center anymore. It wasn't because, you know, we jogged it with the jog buttons. So rest assured, all those jogs we did are saved on this edit screen. So anyways, so we go 1 degree, counterclockwise, hit it again. Now it says 358. So since I jogged the crosshair, I'm going to touch the peace sign and jog that 2 degrees. While I'm here, I'm just going to do it. So I'm going to hit the peace, and then I'm going to go 2 degrees on the piece. See, it says 0, 2, 350, or 1, 2 to 358. So now they're both rotated 2 degrees. So let's check that and see if we're on our crosshair. We'll hit OK. Okay. So again, I'm going to hit this fast forward button because we're on our crosshair. And remember, the last thing I touched was the peace sign, and it's still showing seconds, so that's good. So I'm going to hit the fast forward button in a minute to check our movements, to check our rotation. But I want you to notice that the needle, it looks like it's not even on center anymore. Rest assured, our jog buttons that we originally did for centering are saved on that menu edit screen. We saw it on the crosshair. And one other thing I should mention, when we did the centering while we were on this ready to sew screen. So it did jog everything. It jogged the piece and it jogged the crosshair. That can be confusing. But when you're on the menu edit screen, you have to touch each of them, you know, in this case, because they were separate. So rest assured, when I go to hit the fast forward button to jog through the crosshair, this needle's gonna pivot in line and go where it's supposed to go. So let's see. I'm gonna hit the F button. Do you see how it shot over and went up? Now it looks like it's right on the crosshair. Get straight in front of it. So now I'll hit the fast forward button, and it's going straight down my crosshair. This design will stitch out perfectly. Do I have to check the horizontal? No, you don't. Not for rotation. Rotation, you only have to check one of them. But if you're concerned, you can. You know, you have to fast forward and go off to the side and look down the machine that way. So now this design is perfect. So when I stitch it, it's going to stitch exactly the way I want it to stitch. Exactly on. So for me to take this template off, everything's, you know, the needle's in the way. So what I usually do is I go back to the crosshair. You can use your thread colors, but, you know, it's going to be a pain. I'll just reverse back so that the needle goes way up at the top. And, you know, the arm will come forward then, you know. If you hold it down, it'll go fast, usually. Oh, there we go. I just hit it once. I went back so far because I was holding it down, it just came back to the center. So then I hit the F button to get it up at the top. So now I can carefully peel off this template. And who knows, I may not have made it, I may have made it so that, okay, my tape is fine. Oh, and look, I put the tape under the hoop there, so I kind of messed up. I shouldn't have done that. So, because if I pull it now, I could ruin the corduroy. And I don't know, I may want to use this for something, so just learn from my mistake. I wasn't thinking, looking through the camera and everything, so I'm not going to pull that. You know, because you could pull the fabric out of your hoop too. So if that happens, you could just go like this and tape this down with another piece of tape. You know, you'll be fine. So then that's it. So then I don't want to stitch the crosshair, obviously, so I come over here to the next thread color. Because remember, if I click this, okay, it shows what stitching is the crosshair. So I don't want to do that. So I hit plus, and now it went to needle number 2. It made that funny noise because I had the needle click down. And that can scare you sometime when the needle pops up. Makes a loud bang or something. Not a bang, but a loud click. So now we're ready to stitch piece, and it's stitching it on needle number 2. So it's going to start there. So it looks like it's starting at the bottom. I don't know how this design stitches out, but so that's it. That's how you center and everything. When you don't have a computer, or when you don't, well, you don't even need a computer unless you used it to put stuff on your USB stick. But you don't need a printer. You don't need software. I do have crosshairs that you can easily download from my Facebook group, the Janome one and the Brother one as well. I have a Brother SE600 group, and then the Janome Mb4, Mb4s, Mb7 group. There's a bunch of crosshairs in there. I think there's basting boxes too, because, you know, I could have imported a basting box as well to stitch before my design. That's always smart. So if I were to do that now, everything's fine on my edit screen. It's just going to stay, but I probably want to, depending on how big the basting box is, you know, I wouldn't want it to interfere with the word piece, but I can get one that's kind of bigger than this. I'll just see when I bring it in. So while I'm on the edit screen, I'll hit open. And my basting boxes are in here. I forgot to see how big that was. Let's see if this one, oh, it's too big for this. That's right, because this is 4.3. Okay. So I just hit the X button. So we'll take the 4-inch one. Baste. Okay, so there it is. You know, it's kind of too big, and it's selected, so I could go into the resize here, and that's right, this machine doesn't resize top and bottom. It makes the whole thing smaller. So, you know, I'm still within the word piece, but I'm getting close there. Let me go one more bigger. So, that's really all I can do. Now, I can rotate it the 2 degrees like I rotated the other stuff. Rotate counterclockwise. So it, you know, so it's in line with everything else. I don't need to move it because I don't know how much I moved the design anyways. That's the one thing that I do wish they would update, is show us how many millimeters we jogged it when we used these buttons. It doesn't tell you. Yes, your jogs are saved on the edit screen, but you don't know what the numbers are. So that's why once you set the center, that's it. Don't try to set your center again. The rotation, I think you can do the rotation, you know, over and over. Now, the last thing we touched is the basting box. So we don't want the basting box to stitch last. So let's touch the peace sign again and see the peace sign still says 358 degrees. So now the peace sign will stitch last. So let's hit OK. Okay, so there's, let me hit this button to see what's stitching. The crosshairs first, we don't want to stitch it. That's why I put a red box there. The basting box is stitching next, and I can, well, let's see. Let's go down. Whoops. Next thread color. Getting confused myself. Okay, so that's highlighting the basting box. And then if we go down one more thread color, there's our piece. Okay, well, I hope I've helped you, and if you have any questions, feel free to write me on Facebook, Lisa We Quilt, or you can go to my website, wequiltstudio.com, or you can email me at wequiltstudio@gmail.com. Thanks a lot, and have a wonderful day.